Hey, Bolt fam, welcome to another edition of ChargersCast. This is a free agency and pre-draft edition. We're sitting here at the tail end of March, about a month away. In fact, I think we're like exactly a month away from the draft, and we're going to get into free agency and what the Chargers have been doing, what they haven't been doing. And then we'll start looking at some of the moves that they may be making with those 10 draft picks that they have in the upcoming 2025 draft. This week, I have with me, again, once. It's been a while, but I've got both of the friends to the podcast with me. Brennan's back from Chargers District. And Andrew, it's been a few episodes, my friend, and not just a few episodes, but a few months because we're in the off season. At least 2 months. I mean, it's been maybe 3. But welcome back, my friend Andrew Loya from Bolt Casa. So let's get into it, guys. There's been some stuff going on. Chargers, as usual, didn't come out of the gate hot in free agency. It's just never been the way they operate. And I'm not shocked that under, kind of the first real off season for Joe Ortiz, right? Because now he's entrenched. Last year, I don't even think he was he on the roster at this time? Was he hired? I think he was maybe just recently had been hired just before the combine last season. So, he was still just kind of getting his feet wet in the whole bit. But we didn't come out of the gate super hot in free agency, but we made some moves on some of our guys and some other free agents. And so what do you say we start out by running through who we've signed? Let's start with our own guys, and feel free to chime in. Is that a thumbs up? Is that a thumbs down? Do you think Ortiz is cooking, or how we're remaking this roster for 2025 so far? Let's go ahead and start out with the first guy that he re-signed. This was early on in free agency. In fact, it was pre-free agency, frankly, with Elijah Molden. Now, last episode, Brennan and I talked about this guy a little bit. Thought it was a great signing. I think they basically locked down safety, especially with the last move they just made 2 days ago, locking down Tony Jefferson too. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think they need to do anything in the safety room at this point. But what are you guys' thoughts on both those guys?
Go ahead, Brennan.
So I like it. Like you said, I honestly think it would be, even though we have 10 picks, maybe get a young guy you can turn into an all-pro later on in his career. But if we get a safety in the draft, I feel like there's no point. We have Elijah Molden's pretty young. We got a couple veterans in there, and Alohi Gilman's kind of in that middle age range where he's still got a lot left in the tank. So I think those two signings were perfect. They all played last year. If it wasn't broken, why fix it? So I said that a lot last podcast. So I think it was a perfect thing for our safety room. It's locked down, and I think they're going to be an elite part of our defense for sure.
I don't have a whole lot to add. I think Elijah Molden is a good player. And this really isn't the draft to try to really go and try to pick up a position. There's no like later round guys that I'm like, oh yeah, that's a supplemental thing to do when you got someone like Elijah who played great. So I'm happy about the decision for sure.
Well, and what do they call Jefferson? I think the guys on the squad call him Unk.
The right? Unction.
Yeah. I kind of he's that grizzled veteran. He's seen it all. He doesn't have to be the most athletic safety on the field because he's seen so much that mentally he can get a step or two, just kind of knowing the game and reading quarterbacks and reading offenses. Brennan and I touched on that one preseason game he had last season where he was like 3 picks. Dude, he dominated. I mean, he dominated. And he got some really good reps in the season. And the other thing is I consider him a coach on the field. He's that experienced that I think that is one of those sneaky good signings where it'll fly under the radar screen. Nobody will really say anything about it. But what they're getting, their bang for their buck. And he seems ecstatic, by the way. I don't know if you saw his posts on Insta, but he seemed really ecstatic to be re-signed and be on the roster, hanging with Harbs and the guys. So yeah, I think we're pretty good in the safety department. Those guys all played together last year, so there's going to be that synergy too. So I'd say that's great. I think Ortiz took care of a position group with guys he knew, and they played really solid last year. So, and the other key is it lets Derwin do Derwin shit, right? Those three guys, Derwin can now go, get up close to the line of scrimmage, blitz, take on tight ends. He can do a bunch of other stuff. So, good signing. The next one right behind that is Khalil. I think we had to bring him back. His leadership qualities, again, kind of like Tony Jefferson, but then way above a notch. Just the leadership that he brings to the team. You hear guys talk about just that steady confidence that he has. So I think one season at what was it, $18 million is a bargain. Have him on the roster, have him chasing quarterbacks. Tooley's ready to rock and roll as a full-time guy. Bud's a great rotational guy. I'd love to see us pick up one more rotational guy like we had with Bosa. There's a guy hanging out there by the name of Zadarius Smith that I think would be a really great fit because he's an ex-Baltimore guy. And there's another guy out there by the name of Von Miller that hasn't landed any place yet. So what are you guys' thoughts there?
You got it, Ninja.
I mean, I'm stoked about it. 1 year deal. He could have made more money with other people, and he chose to stay and ride it out with us. So I'm super happy about it. But yeah, the room's definitely not done. I think when you look at Tooley, a guy who contributed big time on special teams, I think it's time to maybe pull away from that, really get him established. More reps on the edge on the other side. But we're definitely not done, to say the least. But we still got Bud Dupree, so things are looking good, and I'm really happy about bringing Mac back for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think we're re-signing Rumpf. I think they're going to let him walk.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the same. It was good to keep him. Like Andrew said, I can't really say too much off of that, but definitely not done. But if we weren't able to make too many moves going forward, I'd still be happy. Tui is just way too good. Like his ceiling is super high, and last year when Bosa was in and out, he kind of took over for that and was getting some good reps, making some good plays. Nothing like full all-pro elite, but he has a high ceiling, so he's gonna just get better and better and better if the progression goes right. So I'm excited to see him and Khalil next year, because if he is even better than he was last year, he's going to be good.
Well, he's had 2 seasons now where he's learning from guys, like elite guys, like Joey Bosa, who's always a technician, right? I mean, we all know Joey. He had his strength moves, but he was always a technician with his hands. And then Khalil. I mean, the guy's just a beast. So Tooley's had 2 seasons under that to then, it's time. Unleash the kid. Not like he's been tied up, but give him more reps and let him really go attain what that ceiling is that you're talking about. So really cool. Denzel Perryman, we re-signed Denzel to another 1-year deal. I think that was a great signing. Denzel's not supposed to be a starter. I don't think we ever brought him in to be a starter. Junior Colson getting hurt, having his appendix, I think, in the off season last season as a rook, just screwed up his whole season. So really looking forward to Junior coming in fully healthy into camp, and then having Denzel as the grizzled veteran again, like a Khalil Mack or Tony Jefferson, just having that guy at that level who's a thumper, who if you need him to fill in for a game or a couple weeks, reps, he's going to take care of business. And I think that was a pretty inexpensive deal too. I think we got him for like 1 year, $3.5 million, something like that.
Yeah, Denzel wanted to be here. That was a big part of it. He didn't want to go anywhere else. And, behind him, I guess I know we're going to like Troy Dye. Like as a committee, it made sense. Like that's a culture thing for the locker room and a position group. He plays well when he's out there. So it's a great signing, and depth wise with Troy Dye right behind him, or however they interchange and play that, Junior Colson, So it's funny because we just touched on the safety group and then the linebacker group. Those are two groups that we took care of that we're probably not going to look at in the draft. Not to say that they won't, but it's pretty unlikely. Like we're pretty established at those two groups.
Second half of the draft where we've got all those extra picks, you'll be looking at guys 5 through 7, right? Rounds 5 through 7. Role players, maybe special teams guys who can evolve into bigger roles. But they're going to spend those higher value picks probably in other places, right?
Yeah, when you look at the depth chart, those two position groups are full compared to the rest.
Yeah. And, Denzel, there's a theme there. You've got some veteran depth. By the way, there's only 2 former San Diego Chargers left on this team. Denzel.
Are you counting?
And one other.
Are you counting Coach?
And Coach. And Coach. Hey, he donned the lightning bolts, baby. He counts, right?
I mean, if you count that, I mean, you're going to have to count Nick Hardwick as well because he was a Bolt for a while, and he's one of our O-line coaches.
Yeah. I also, okay, 3. We got Nick.
Yeah.
And Nick absolutely is a Bolt through and through, right? Yeah. Nick never took a snap for another team. He came awesome. As a Bolt, retired as a Bolt. So technically there's 3. And yes, Denzel wanted to be there. I think Denzel's at that point in his career where it's quality over quantity. I see the guy on social media posting sunsets at the beach, like on the daily. Life is good.
Did you guys see him the other day with his beanie on and a sauna doing some push-up workout?
Dude,
just busting his ass. Like, I thought that was so cool. I'm like, look at Denzel.
Yeah.
And responding to fans and like saying, like, I want to come back. Like, that's why I said that. Like, Denzel for the culture and for the vibes, like, heck yeah, great signing.
And it really seems like he's taken Dayon under his wing too. It seems like he's pretty tight. So there's nothing but good stuff that's going to come from keeping him on the roster. So he's a leader, in his own way. And so we've got this veteran leadership at all depths, like you said, from the D line, the edge. It's pretty sweet. Just going down my list here, no particular order. J.K. Scott, re-signed J.K. I want to say that was a 3-year deal. They paid him. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Isn't that what you said last week, Brennan? Last
yeah.
Why screw with it?
Yeah.
He may not have the longest punts, but I do believe he leads the league, or he's right up there in like the top 3 in hang time. And pinning guys back, inside their 20s. So that's what you want in a punter. This is a little tangent. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I could have sworn it kind of flew under the radar screen, but didn't our long snapper retire? Did I not see that? Long?
It still has him on the roster, so I don't know.
Is it Ty Long? Is that our long snapper?
No, Josh Harris is our long snapper.
Yeah, Josh Harris is staying. Ty Long, he was our punter a while back, like 2018, 2019, and I saw the exact post. He just said that he's retiring as a Charger. So he's just probably making that 1 day contract and then signing with us.
Yeah, because long snapper is a critical position.
We have him locked up
go under the radar screen.
Isn't he like an all-pro long snapper? What is he?
Dude, we've had like all-pro long snappers since I was like knee-high to a grasshopper. Going way back, the guy who was dating Pamela Anderson.
Hell yeah.
It'll come in the middle of the pod. David Ben was like 20 years for a long snapper. And the guy was money. Like the laces were always perfect every time. So you can't underestimate that position. So good to hear. Bradley Bozeman. We re-signed Bradley. I'm not disappointed about that, but if you guys have watched and listened to the postseason, the first postseason pod, I wanted him re-signed, but I wanted him re-signed as a backup. He should not be our starting center, I don't believe, even though it looks like he's going to be surrounded, potentially by some better talent that we'll talk about. But I'm okay with him being on the roster. I just don't think he should be a starter. He was like a turnstile.
Brandon?
Silent.
I couldn't have said it any better. with the other signing, like you said, we'll talk about. I don't see him starting just based off the other guy's production. Um, yeah, he was really off and on, and I said this last game. Last game. I said this last pod that he would be less of a fan favorite of in the locker room and less of a Harbaugh guy if it wasn't for that play where he protected Herbert. I think he got a little more. This might be a hot take or like far fetched, but I really don't think they would have re-signed him if that didn't happen because that was just an iconic play that kind of etched himself into that O line, showing that he'll protect his QB, which is important. But what I'm trying to get at is the talent's lacking. So if he's a backup, perfect. But since he's a Harbaugh guy, might as well sign him like 1 year deal. That's nice, good, cool. See if he can add some depth, but should definitely not be the starter.
Yeah, so early in free agency, when that was all that we had done is re-sign him to a decent contract, I was scratching my head and I was pretty pissed off about it. Like, how is this the direction that we're going to go forward when I still have the Texan game in my mouth and I know that Justin Herbert does? And yeah, but as the offseason progressed, we made some moves. So I feel a lot better about what's going on, and we got some guys that are going to be able to compete as we get started into the season. So as a depth piece, and I want to kind of say this now, I think the theme of the offseason for me, like the free agency process, is how did we move the needle? I think we moved the needle in depth, and I think that was kind of what we tried to do a little bit last year, and we're kind of continuing that. So when you look at it as depth, we move the needle for sure. So happy about Bradley Bozeman and the way that it's worked out now.
I think that's a good way to put it, Andrew, because championships are won with depth. Okay, come the end of the season, come playoffs, everybody's injured. You've got injuries. You got guys on injured reserve. You're using your depth pieces. You're using your starters, but they're not 100%. It's a ragtag kind of hodgepodge. You got to have that depth, and then, of course, we know Joe was phenomenal throughout the entire season, supplementing with a piece here or piece here as we needed. I think Bozeman's a great backup, right? Yeah. He can come in and give you quality reps. And, that's what I've been saying about Pipkin, right? Pipkin, as far as I was concerned, no, he should not be starting anymore, but he can give you those quality backup reps, and he showed he can play guard and tackle, right? So go get a starter for that position. And if you can afford Trey, keep him on the roster, because he wasn't a free agent, and just have him in that depth role. So I think that was a good signing. And I don't think there's much more to add there. Let's head over to Troy Dye. I think that was a great signing, especially because we lost Nick Neiman. Great special teams guy, can come in and play linebacker. We got some quality reps out of him this season. So I'm really happy about that signing, both as a backup linebacker and as a special teams ace.
Yeah, Troy Dye played better than I thought he could play. So, and not to mention, we kept Troy Dye, but then we picked up, which we'll get into him because it was a signing, but behind him is Delshawn Phillips, and he's basically a special teams ace. So, it's smart. We're filling depth, but then we're not relying, we're not going to rely completely on him like we did with Nick Neiman to contribute on special teams. So this thing's really filling out nicely.
Yeah, and you want some veteran special teams depth too, right? Because you bring in rooks to play special teams, but you can't have your special teams be all rooks. You got to have some veterans in there too. So,
yeah, I think it was perfect. Not too much. Like Andrew said, he did way better than I thought he was gonna play. He's already has chemistry with them, so it's not like he's just going in a new system. He knows Herbert from college, and it adds depth. Like you guys were saying, it's a perfect, because a lot of people are saying, why did you get rid of Nick Neiman? That hurts, because that was a little before the Troy Dye signing. But then when we re-signed Troy Dye, it started just making sense. What Andrew said, you're seeing each spot just fill up, and I think compared to last year, our depth is definitely just getting better and better. Because like you said earlier, Kirk, it's going to get to later times, and we know the Chargers, we are a team that's always been injury plagued. So if you have that next guy up who's elite or who can get the job done and win us some games, that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, I mean, depth wins championships. You know, it's critical that you've got quality depth. They don't all have to be studs and starters. They just need to be able to come in, you know, for a series here, a quarter there, a game here, and give you quality reps and not screw up too bad, so that you make it to the next game and your star comes back for that position. Which leads me to the next guy we signed last week, Taylor Heineke. I was okay with that signing. I would have blown a flippin' gasket if they re-signed Easton Stick first. Now, I'll be okay if they re-sign Easton as third string just to hold Justin's clipboard or jockstrap, because I know they're like buddies and stuff. But as far as the guy who's going to go in if Justin comes out, I'd much rather have Taylor. Now, there was some talk about maybe we were talking to Jameis Winston, and I think we touched on this last pod, Brennan. But let's face it, if Herbert goes down for any duration of time, we're pretty much screwed. But if it's, you know, a quarter, a half, a game, Taylor's scrappy. He can win us a game here or there. I would say if Herbert goes down for a game, I would give it a coin toss, a 50-50, depending on the opponent, of course, that Taylor could come in and hold his own, and we could run the shit out of the ball. He could throw a couple critical passes, and we could maybe pull out the game. So I was okay with that one. And we didn't have to pay him a fortune, even though I think we did pay him pretty damn good, like $6 million, something like that.
Yeah, he got a good chunk of money, and I'm a fan of Taylor Heineke. I think the league knows who Taylor Heineke is. It's a great backup. You look at a lot of backups in the NFL, and they're really bad. So this is absolutely okay with me. I think we justify having someone. We need to pay someone behind Justin. Either way, I think we all agree. Yeah, like you just said, Kirk, if he goes down, it's kind of done. But Taylor, for those little moments of Herbert's down for a couple plays or out for a game, out for 2 games, shit, we could still win some football games with Taylor Heineke. So I'm happy about it.
I tell you what, if Herbert did go down and Taylor was starting next week, I would be tuning in big time and be crazy interested in watching that game to see how he performs with all of the other talent that Joe puts around him. Because we're building a team that's not just dependent on Justin Herbert, even though, let's face it, Justin's a stud, right? And they want to utilize all his talent. But they don't want him to have to feel like he has to carry the team every week on every play. And so I would be right there rooting as hard as I've ever rooted for the Chargers if Taylor had to start again.
Yeah, I agree with all you guys are saying. One thing the Herbert lovers probably won't like is we love the guy, and he's as elite. I personally think he's top 5, and people can argue with a wall if they want to. But the dude gets injured, and he gets injured every single season. I know it's not a season-ending injury, but he's always limping off of the field at least 1 or 2 games a season. So it's good to have that backup because, like you said, Kirk, we don't want Herbert to be forced back in the game like that Chiefs game a couple years ago with a couple damn broken ribs. So it's like if we can have a guy that can like just execute and win us a game, even if it's a 50% chance, I think Heineke can do it. When he was a starter on the Commanders, he went in the playoffs and he gave the Tampa Bay Bucks a run for their money. The dude, like you said, is scrappy and he can win games. He's a veteran where he has won in big situations. He's been the season starter before, so he knows what he's doing. So I like that signing. And like you said earlier, I probably would have broke a lot of things if we re-signed Easton Stick, because that 2023 season was a little too hard to handle when he was starting.
Well,
So
last preseason, I mean, that sealed it for me. Last preseason,
yeah,
it was like, oh shit, we just can't do this. Not with Harbaugh as a coach and where he wants to take this team. And as a 40 plus years of watching Chargers football, I'm trying to think back through all of the eras where we had a better backup quarterback than Taylor Heineke. And there's a couple spots. I wouldn't put Billy Volek ahead of Taylor Heineke, even though Billy Volek was solid. Definitely not Charlie Whitehurst, the clipboard Jesus. Definitely not Easton Stick. There was that period there when we drafted Breezy, and we had the overlap between Harbaugh, Flutie, and I don't think Breeze was in when Harbaugh left, just before Breeze came in. But there was that period there between Harbaugh, Flutie, and Breeze where Flutie was like the starter, Breeze was the backup, then Breeze became the starter and Flutie's the backup. Maybe then. And then otherwise, like, you're talking Ed Luther backing up Dan Fouts. And Dan Fouts like never missed a game. So, I mean, he's quality. He can come in and he can get some quality reps. So, yeah, good signing.
I want to add too, like when you look back at preseason, like you guys had mentioned, that was so piss poor that he actually ruined opportunities for young guys that really didn't get a chance out there.
Yeah,
Like Brendan Rice, players that are coming in that are trying to prove themselves. He didn't really give them much of an opportunity. So as we get through this draft and we get into preseason, Taylor's going to be able to go throw that thing around, and we're going to get a better look at some guys, and guys are going to get more of an opportunity for the season. So I think that's one thing that you got to try to keep in mind.
Well, this will be an interesting preseason because, right, we brought Taylor in late after Stick sucked it up.
Yeah.
And the other kid that came over with our receivers, Duggan kind of stunk it up. And then we had that other kid. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, we ended up picking up somebody because we were just like, whoa.
Oh, and then we picked up Perez off
nice.
the street too. So Taylor's going to get a really good offseason. This is going to be a great offseason for him to really get into this system. So should be fun. Should be fun watching training camp and these preseason games, which I'm usually not a big fan of preseason games, other than to watch all these depth pieces gel and see that one guy, like the one little receiver that we got, or the Austin Eckler or the Antonio Gates, see those guys, the cream rise to the crop. So last but not least, Tier Tart, we already kind of touched on Tier. He wasn't on my keeper list. Puna was, and Fox was. But in light of not keeping those guys, we got some good reps out of Tier, and he has a big body. And we signed a couple other pieces as well that'll complement in there. And then we've got some young pieces that are kind of supposed to be growing in to that position. So I'm not upset about it. I think we got a really good deal on Tier, and I think he's a role player. He'll be a rotational guy. Enough said?
Yep, yeah, that was perfectly said to me.
Yeah, Tier's got a good get off. He's got some good moves, but I mean, we let a lot of guys walk, so we had to keep somebody, and it works. And
I won't be shocked if we get a bad SD tackle, either in the early mid draft or post draft cut downs. So, and that's one thing, we'll touch on a little bit here, but you really you got to get through the draft first, and you got to see how all these other teams, these other 31 teams are starting to make their roster. But every season there is quality guys that ended up getting dropped between the draft and between week one as they're tweaking their rosters. There's some quality veteran guys. So that's always a great place to fill out a couple holes. Guys that we no longer have on the roster. We talked about Morgan Fox, bummed about that. Puna Ford. Christian Fulton signed with our arch enemies. So screw him. He's an enemy now, even though he was on my keeper list. Nick Neiman's with the Texans. Sorry to see Nick go.
That's interesting. I wanted Christian Fulton to go as far away from us as possible.
Okay.
I feel like there is so many, like if I did research throughout every game, there are probably countless times throughout games where he just got burnt toast. Early on, he was killing it, but later on, he kind of kept he took his foot off the gas pedal a little bit. I don't know. With injuries, I don't know what it was, but there was a lot of plays. Like there was one play where he got like a PI and then a block in the back in like the same play, and I was like, you can't be doing that, man. So it's like, I was fine. It sucks that he signed with the Chiefs, but he's gonna get burnt by Ladd McConkey, and I can promise you that he's not good in man. So if they keep him in zone or a nickel package, maybe, but he's not the greatest in man, and it showed all last year. So
you're dead on. I mean, he played really good early on, got injured, and then definitely had a letdown late in the season. But
yeah,
my whole philosophy is good DBs are really hard to find. They're not hard to find; they're really hard to find.
yeah.
And I was going to be more optimistic that the early Christian Fulton was the real Christian Fulton, and injuries kind of sabotaged the second half of the season. And I didn't think he was going to cost us a lot of money. So even if he turned it out not being a starter, because we happen to have these 2 5th-round studs that may actually end up being our starters. Well, the one kid's probably going to end up being a starter. What was his name? Dante Jackson from Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah,
he'll probably end up being a starter. But we've got some really good depth at corner, and so at the end of the day, I think Joe's like, we're going in a different direction, which leads me to Nick Neiman went to the Texans. I think I mentioned that. There's 2 guys that were on my keeper list that are no longer, well, they're still available. And one of them I'm not happy about. And the other one it's still a mystery to me. J.K. Dobbins, I don't know what Joe's doing personally. I think maybe he's like maybe this took place. Maybe this conversation, because J.K.'s such a good guy. He's such a good guy to have on your team from a personality standpoint. Maybe Joe said, hey, we want to keep you, but let's go see what the market is going to bear for you. So let's see what other teams offer you, and then let me know. He may have said that to him, but we would love to keep you on the team, JK, but let's see what the market value is first before we just throw some money at you. That may be one thing. The other thing may be, because we signed Najee Harris, which we'll get into here in a bit, he may be going, well, let's see what we get in the draft first. And if JK's gone, JK's gone. But depending on how the draft goes, JK's still available. Maybe we bring JK back. For me, I'd be okay to get somebody in the draft and keep JK. I don't think JK is going to cost us a ton. And I see JK from last season. The kid's crazy talented. His running skills, his jump cut, his vision's elite. You watch him run, his vision's elite. And then Asante's still just a mystery. I don't know what the hell's going on with Asante. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't think he's going to be back on this team. I don't know what the deal is, but it seems like there's a falling out or something. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on those 2 guys, but yeah, I'm a little shocked that JK hadn't been re-signed. Gus, I totally got Gus, letting Gus go. He just didn't produce.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, go ahead.
So for me, the Asante Samuel thing's just up in the air. Like you said, it's hard to find good corners, so it'd be nice to have him back. He's pretty elite. I did see a video. This guy touched up on it, and he said one very possible option was based off his specific injury. They're a little worried that he's going to re-injure it or not be the same since he hasn't played since last year of week 1. So that one that's all I have there. But then the JK one, I'd be happy if he came back, because I think Najee Harris and J.K. Dobbins 1-2 punch would probably be a top 5 in the league easily. But if we don't re-sign him and get another guy or get Kamani Vidal up to good use, I'd be fine with that. I don't want to touch on Najee too much, but that guy has not missed one game. He was a team guy through and through. Everybody I heard, and he's rushed for 1,000 yards every season. So availability and getting those yards, that's perfect. So if we don't re-sign him, I think we got a better option, in my opinion, just based off availability and his production.
Yeah, as far as Asante goes, you touched on it, Brennan, with that injury, and I wonder if that's kind of what's influencing the buyers on him, because no one's picked him up either. So I do wonder if that's leaving a lot of reservations for a lot of teams, because he hasn't been picked up yet. And so I wonder if that is a big part of the reasoning. And yeah, that is what it is. I don't think he's going to be coming back. And I kind of just want to wait till later. Maybe we'll unpack the running back room as a whole. But
yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah, I'm not sure about JK. And I'll get it. I'll express more of what I want to say with the running back room as a whole as we get into it a little later.
Cool. Yeah, we're going to be running into that here real shortly, so I'm looking forward to hearing that. Yeah, I hadn't thought about the nature of Asante's injury, but that's a really good observation that nobody's picked him up yet. Okay,
Yep.
He's a really good cornerback, and I mean, look at Jason Verrett. Okay, how many shots did he get? And he came out of college injury plagued, and so like I said, good DBs are hard to find. Great DBs are incredibly hard to find. And Asante's really good DB. So, yeah, maybe it's that injury that all buyers are just kind of, let's get through the draft. Let's get closer to the season, and let's see how you're really recovered here.
Because it's not like Asante is going to be taking a cheap deal. He's in a position to make some money right now that he's off his rookie contract. So, yeah, that kind of does put the writing on the wall.
Well, he may, because of that injury, if
exactly, he might be forced to.
You hit that right, Brennan. He may be a one-year prove-it deal. His next contract may be a one-year prove-it deal to say, can you stay healthy the whole next season? And then if you do stay healthy and you're able to play like you played your first 4 years with the Chargers, then, yeah, we're going to give you that big hunkin' deal. Because good corners, they don't grow on trees, man. They grow in the 5th round when Joe's picking.
Yeah, I generally
about that.
Yeah, I generally believe that it's probably big partly. I mean, based off, it goes 2 and 2 hand in hand together, like his injury, but based off the money he's asking for, because he might not have an option later on, but as of right now, it's still a month from the draft, so he's probably still asking for a good amount of money and waiting to the last minute so he can try to get that deal that a team's willing to pay him for. But I think he's going to be a late, like deadline during the season or right before the start of the season. Because as of right now, I do believe he's probably going to be asking for a lot of money. I'm not in his camp or anything, so I wouldn't know. But I do believe it's probably a big thing with money.
Yeah, it's kind of like trying to sell your house. The longer it sits on the market, the less negotiating power you have to maintain top dollar. If you need to sell it. If you don't need to sell it, you're like, screw it, take it off the market. But if you got to sell it, your negotiating power over time diminishes. And it's the exact same thing with this guy. If he's sitting around and nobody snatched him up, it's the old saying, beggars and choosers. So a couple other guys we haven't talked about that took deals other places. Josh Palmer. He was on my walk list, and he got paid, and I'm ecstatic for him. I like Josh a lot. Really like Josh. He's a great dude, but we know what Josh is, and Josh isn't going to get us where this team needs to go. So it was a win-win, right? Our room, that room needs to expand. The bar of talent needs to come up here from down here. And we'll be talking about that room as well. And so Josh got paid by the Bills, and he's going to another great quarterback. I mean, And by the way, I think he has ties to that region. I think I mentioned on the last pod. I think he went to school in Canada for some years, and I think he's got some Canadian ties as well. So go play in cold weather. You got a great quarterback throwing at you. Pretty cool. Semi signed with the Cards. Semi's out here in Arizona with me. Another guy, right? I mean, how can you not like Semi? He's awesome. I love Semi. So I'm happy for him. He's getting paid.
Yeah, I think the Josh Palmer signing with the Bills too was actually like a perfect fit based off of their team like the Ravens where their receivers aren't top five. They don't have that one weapon as a receiver that's going to keep them like top. I mean, for the Bills, they got Shakir. And then I think, like, basically what I'm trying to say is I think it was a perfect fit based off the fact that he's going to be, like, a legit weapon for Josh Allen. He's going to be able to get those reps. They did pay him a lot, so it's probably indicating that he's probably going to try to jump into that wide receiver 2 thing, depending on what's going on with Keon Coleman as well. So it was I don't want to go on too much with the Bills, but it was a good signing for him, and I'm excited for him. And then Simi, like you said, super cool guy, and I'm not sad to see him go. I think he did need to go, but him getting another contract and with the team also I think he could make impact with is pretty cool. So
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, great for Josh. That's awesome. But I mean, I couldn't justify paying him that much money. And it was funny. I saw someone like say, "Oh, he's a solid wide receiver too." I don't think he's a solid wide receiver too. I think that Joshua Palmer had more than enough opportunities here in LA to really show who he is. And I think we kind of saw it. And when he was solid, but he wasn't, in my opinion. I never viewed him as a wide receiver too. And maybe I just have a higher standard of that's how I view a wide receiver too. I don't think he's a bad player, but I'm just happy with how things worked out for him on his behalf. And personally for us, like paying him was just, for me, not justified. And then Semi, happy that he also made money, but that's just another player that I look at. Cause I'm looking at these kids in the draft and I'm looking at a lot of these guys that I'm like, that guy's better than Semi, so good for him. And we're moving on and we're evolving.
Yeah, exactly. We knew that room of a lot of places on this roster. Is there anybody anywhere in Chargers Nation, anywhere, who didn't think that room needed, like, with the exception of Ladd and, some people would debate QJ, that room needed a makeover and the level of talent the bar needed to be raised a lot. And so Joe's taking care of business. There's still a lot to come. And then last but not least, Mr. Bosa was released, and there was a lot of talk he was going to go to Frisco with his bro, which made a ton of sense. And then all of a sudden, boom, he ends up with the Bills. I think it was a great signing by the Bills. I mean, again, it's, good for Joey. I think it was time for us to move on unless we could get him at a better cap-friendly deal, because I've always had a problem. This is just me personally, but I tend to think like an owner sometimes, and maybe a lot of times. And I'm like, how can I justify giving this guy a contract for X millions of dollars, which is supposed to cover 17 games, and I get 12 out of the guy?
He's been robbing us. With all due respect, Joey's been taking money from us.
Yeah, right. And so he gave some back last season, and I was like absolutely, totally cool with that. But Brennan and I talked about this. Dude, go back. The Phillip Riverses of the world, the LTs of the world, the Antonio Gates of the world, the Junior Seau's of the world. Availability is your number one. Quality is you're there every Sunday with your team. Joey wasn't. for whatever reason, and we can speculate, I tend to think he didn't feel comfortable playing if he wasn't 100%. He felt like he was going to injure himself more. That's my personal opinion after kind of pondering it for these many seasons. And so, we got Khalil. We kept Khalil. That guy's a beast, and that guy's always available. Very rarely is he not available. And he's dinged up. He's dinged up like everybody else, pulled muscles and strains. And so if you had to decide between the two, I think they chose the right guy. And
I agree.
I love Joe. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, this is coming from a guy who had his jersey, but I don't care how much skill you have. I don't care if you're the best edge in the entire universe. If you can't play more than 10 games consistently every single season, there's a problem. So, I mean, there's really nothing much to say that he missed too many games. There was so much talent, but just missed too many games. And you could probably do your research and say, wow, we lost that game because of the lack of weapons on edge and we didn't have any more weapons. And he could have been the deciding factor on a good amount of games. He's been with us for a long time, and he's probably played about only 50 to 60% of games, if that. I'm being generous.
Yeah.
So
I think it's 60.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things that sucks, but some people just can't stay healthy, and you can't expect to pay them all that much money if they can't contribute to the team, and that's just the bottom line. So.
Yeah, it's just too bad. His body's betrayed him, and we've waited year after year and after year. This will be the year that Joey plays it out, and we get old Joey, and it just didn't happen. And with the amount of money that he's going to make and is making, we're looking at this new era, and we're going to divvy this money out. We're going to build depth. So that was the move.
Yeah. I can't fault Joe at all for moving on. And you got to hope that there was a certain amount of respect, which I think Joe's that kind of guy. There's a certain amount of respect that was given as these kind of moves were made. So, let's jump into areas of need. Probably the most glaring area of need, quite frankly, was the interior offensive line. Even before the wide receiver room, to be honest with you. So we made a huge move in free agency. And I don't know about you guys, but I was really ecstatic about this move. When the guy played tackle with the Jets, he was horrible. But he was a free agent this last offseason, moved to Philly. They kicked him into guard, and the guy was kind of a beast at guard. Right guard, if I'm not mistaken. Mekhi Becton, and he was a free agent. I guess they signed him on just a one-year deal, and we were able to pick him up. I think this is a huge move, both from the run. Dude, can you he's like 6'7", 6'8", like Joe Alt. That's like a wall over on that right side. God forbid you're a defensive end and a freaking D tackle over on that side, because you're getting pancaked 50, 60 plays a game.
Yeah, Mekhi Becton brought the life into the offensive line situation, because I think people were crashing out on X, throwing fits, and rightfully so. Like, look at rightfully so. That Texans game was just so horrible. And we saw it all season long. Those guys on the inside just getting their asses kicked from the stunts and getting bullied, not picking up blitzes. It was terrible. And we were sitting on our hands for a good minute. And so it was enough. But they have always got a plan. We don't know the conversations that are going on behind closed doors. And Mekhi Becton is an awesome signing with a lot of upside. He's getting better. And I think that we've got a good team to get the best out of him. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not going to lie. I definitely was one of them. I was like, day 1, 2, 3, I was like, okay, stay patient. And then more people kept going off the board, more people. And I was like, all right, Joe, and it was just the matter of fact of how much cap space we had. If we had a little less, I'd be different. but it came to the point where we had all the money in the world and we weren't doing anything. So that Becton signing was perfect. You can make a whole highlight reel of him pancaking people just on one season of the Eagles. I saw a couple of his plays. I'm pretty sure Baldy made like just analyzing like he does, and he was really good at guards. So I think if he has the same production that he did last year, we can only hope. But if he does, that's a banger. So that's a great piece for our O line. Like you said, he is massive. So it's going to take a massive D lineman to get through that guy.
Well, and then not to mention all of those guys in free agency were quite frankly making a little more money than what they should be making. They weren't exactly like, that's just the value of the position. So what makes this signing that much better is we got Mekhi Becton on a great contract, a great deal. Yeah. So we scored. We scored a great guy at a great price while everyone rushed, to grab people and just, here's my pocketbook. Good luck with that. I think we made out pretty well, guys.
He's a massive man, and you're going to put him next to this other massive man. I can't wait. I can't wait to watch that offensive line. And I was watching something the other day. I forget who it was. Something on social media, and the guy's like, if I was coach, I would have my offensive line be the first ones off the bus every time they rolled up to the stadium, and it would be Joe Alt and Mekhi Becton, the first ones off that bus every game, just to set the tone of you're playing the Chargers, and we're going to maul the crap out of you for 60 minutes. And I'm like, that's genius. Oh, yeah. That's what I want to see every Sunday morning when the cameras are on the Chargers getting off the bus, is the big dogs coming in at 6'8", 6'9", 300 and something pounds. So I love that signing, as you guys can tell. There's been some talk in the offseason of maybe kicking Zion into center. You guys want to touch on that briefly? What are your thoughts? It seems like it's worth a shot. We just signed the guy from the Raiders, who I think is probably earmarked to be the starter at that position right now.
Yeah, so I was going to say those talks were before a couple signings. Mm-hmm. I think there's probably no chance. He might get like some 13 practice reps, but I don't see him getting remotely close to starting at center based off the fact that we have Bozeman as depth, and I'm a really big fan of Andre James. A lot of the Raiders fans were bashing him, but if you compare his production to Bozeman's, it is night and day. The dude is just a way better center, and why put a new guy transitioning from one position to another position when you've already switched him before, and try him out when you already have a guy that's already established himself as a good center. I mean, the Raiders probably would have kept him if they didn't sign that Jackson Powell-Johnson kid. So I don't think he's has a chance after that signing for Andre James.
Yeah, that's nicely said, Brennan. I think that Andre James in the past has shown some really good seasons on the Raiders. He had his most recent year was his worst year. Every player's got a down year. We're in a better position, so let's roll with it. Those two guys are going to be able to compete, and yeah, I think you're right. I think Andre's probably the likely one to win. But now you look at the center position, we got depth. There's three players right there. It's funny because when I look at the depth of the center position, you see Andre James, Bradley Bozeman, and then Bucky Williams. Previous regimes with the Chargers, and this you can look at a lot of position groups. I like the idea of what we're doing with the depth because I could see how if you go sign a star player and you don't quite fill out the depth, how a player like Bucky Williams moves on up, and then you're all of a sudden relying on him if someone goes down. And that's like how you end up with freaking Storm Norton as a right tackle. Shit like that. That's where I get a lot of respect from what's going on with this roster and why you should feel good about what's going on. That's how the needle has moved in this offseason. You got to look at it like that.
Yeah, and you never know. Maybe Zion would take to the position like a fish in water. Maybe. But if nothing else, you've got a guy that maybe takes some reps there and, the stars don't align and you have a couple guys go down and, next thing you know, you're digging the bottom of the barrel to get somebody to snap the ball to Justin. Hey, at least he took some reps.
Could you imagine if Bucky Williams is snapping the ball? Goodness, that would be so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, what's that guy's name? Brandon Hamus or something would have been above him on the depth chart.
Yeah, he got picked up by somebody.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So
he was a free agent.
We used to have Will Clapp.
Clapp.
That guy was actually...
Clapp. He filled in a few.
He was. The only reason why I bring him up is because he'd be better than Bucky Williams or whatever his name is. He was good depth. He was good depth.
Well, maybe that guy. We'll see. We'll see where the lower parts of the depth as roster cuts take place and things like that.
It probably won't happen, but that would be really funny. In the middle of the season, we said this, and he becomes one of the best centers in the league. But obviously, won't happen. But that would be pretty funny after talking about that.
Well, the other thing I'd mention about James real quick is, was his down season last season his fault, or was it because he was part of a team that was, shall we say, just kind of meandering through whatever process it was they were trying to go through with their coach and their GM and their owner, and it's a team in transition.
Yeah, he was a product of what was going on with the Las Vegas Raiders, who were a terrible run team. Teams who knew they were going to throw it, and they weren't really good at that either. So the offensive line really got taken advantage of throughout the season.
Mediocre quarterback play. I mean,
totally.
You name it. So
it
may not be all his fault. Is my point.
Yeah. Also, another it's kind of a little far fetched, but it's pretty interesting. I think another thing, part of his down season, is it's different when you're competing for the first team reps as a new guy, but you have to think about it this way, going, hey, you've been with us for 6 years and you've started almost every game in those 6 years, but we're going to bring in a guy to replace you. So that can, I know it's far-fetched, but that can mess with guys' productivity. The way he goes about his games and stuff, he's going to be too worried about getting replaced. It's a little different. He can just compete to compete because he's not losing a position. He's not starting yet. They didn't say that. So I think that can be something in the mix as well we have to think about.
Yeah, maybe light a little fire in his gut.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Let's move on. Tight end. One of the areas I thought we really, really needed to improve this season was on the pass catching tight end. And there's no knock on Disley. I think Disley had a great season, probably had his best season as a receiving tight end this season. And he's still the blocker that he is. So I wasn't worried about Will. I think, there wasn't an issue. Hayden Hurst, not surprised that we're maybe not re-signing him. Storm Norton, he was kind of, we kind of knew what Storm was at this point. For me,
Stone Smart.
Stone Smart. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, not Stone.
Yeah, we knew what he was. He was a converted quarterback, right? He showed some flashes, but was he going to turn into Antonio? I don't think so. And so, really, really need to get a pass catching tight end now. All the top guys got plucked off in the early part of preseason. Most of them, I think, re-signed with their current teams, like Gesicki and what's his name, Juwan in New Orleans. But last week we signed a guy that I think could be a really nice role player in that position. I don't think he's going to come in and dominate as a pass catching tight end. Tyler Conklin. What are you guys' thoughts on this guy?
He's solid and he's consistent. He's not a top 10 tight end. He's not a tight end that opposing defenses are going to be shaking in their boots by any means, but he's been available just like you guys keep talking about. So we're going to have an available, balanced guy. and the theme of what we've been talking about as far as depth goes, because I don't think we're done at tight end. We're looking at a great tight end class. As you know, I know our friends, the GAC, the Guilty as Charged podcast guys, do not like this tight end class, but I think they're kind of alone on that opinion. I think it's a great tight end class. So it's just, you look at the depth of the room that we have here. It was a good signing, a solid guy. And like I said, we're going to grab someone hopefully in the, 1, 2, 3 rounds. We'll see how it goes. And that guy should hopefully make a difference. So Tyler Conklin is a good signing.
Yeah, I think what I took out of that signing is consistency. Based off our offense, our skilled players and receiving core, I don't think it's done yet. And if we don't get it done by the beginning of the year, I think that was an even better signing based off the fact that in 150 catches, he's dropped one. So that's as solid as you can get for a tight end, even if it's, like Andrew said, not top 10, not someone who's going to probably break a tackle and go 50 yards, but I saw a play where he took like 8 Broncos with him down the field for 15 yards. Even if it's 5 to 10 yards, he's going to catch the ball because stats don't lie. It's 150 catches and 1 drop is very impressive. So I think just consistency-wise, if Herbert needs to dump it out and he's there, he's going to catch the ball, and that's all you can ask for. So.
And similar to Mekhi Becton, like, we got a really good deal on this when, if we didn't take this opportunity, we were going to be forking up draft capital and a little bit more money when we're going to be looking to the draft, and this is a good move.
Yeah, and I look at the guy. He's kind of Disley-esque with a little bit of Hayden Hurst in him, but the problem with Hayden Hurst was availability. If this guy's steady Eddie, he's always available. I saw a highlight of this kid making a one-handed catch and just getting slammed in the end zone and holding on to the ball. And you don't need 50 yards out of your tight end. Your tight end is your security blanket, kind of like the running back out of the backfield. Can you get that 7-yard first down, that 8-yard first down? And by the way, if it's an 8-yard first down, go freaking 8 yards. Don't go 7 and get tackled like some other players would do. Gerald Everett. So yeah, I think it's really solid. And he looks like he's a good blocker. He can be a good inline blocker as well. So I think he and Disley will complement each other nicely and fill in, but we still need that stud pass-catching tight end to really round out this offense. So last thing I'll mention on the tight end deal, I wouldn't rule out, it's maybe far-fetched. I don't think Joe's going to give up a whole lot of capital, but I wouldn't necessarily rule out that a Mark Andrews trade is completely like 0% either.
Mark Andrews got that bonus. It's not 0%, but that bonus definitely, it would be weird, but we'll see.
If the numbers are right, and there's a little connection there between those two organizations, just saying. Wouldn't rule that out. And I could think of a worse guy to bring in as that elite pass-catching tight end who can burn you down the seam, which he's famous for. So that'd be interesting.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but one thing I wanted to mention before we keep getting farther and farther, because I totally forgot about this guy, and he fits in with this perfect, the topic and everything. So I want to ask you guys, it's based off the edge and just the line in general, Trey Hendrickson. So he was available for trade. I don't know if you guys would pay him that much. I want to see what you guys think based off the fact that they're also asking for a 3rd round for him being a sack leader. Based off his production last year, a 3rd round is, I think I'd give that in a heartbeat. But it's just whether or not the money. But I think that would be a good, perfect option to fill in our gaps. That way, if we don't need it's kind of like a pick for a pick in the draft. We're not drafting a guy because we got rid of a pick to take him, and he's a lead sack leader last year. So
go ahead.
I'm curious to see what you guys think about
I'm
that.
interested in your thoughts on that.
Here are my thoughts. when I looked at this offseason, I said we should invest pretty heavily in at least one position, though. I'm not saying go out and get a bunch of stars, but we should get one position, a star, maybe at least one star, because we have so many needs. We have so many darn needs. And yeah, the depth, that's one thing that we did a really good job of. But we don't quite have that. And that defensive line is old, and we only got Mac on a 1-year deal. I would like it if we actually did extend ourselves and go get someone like Trey Hendrickson, who I think we can all agree here is an absolute stud. He looks like he would be a great fit for this team. I would like every bit of that. And I think that if there was something to kind of push in on, that makes a lot of sense. I'd like it more than like taking the wide receiver, although I would have loved having a wide receiver. But yeah, I just feel like, getting a one good move, he is worth that one good move, especially for a third rounder. Heck yeah, if that's the case, if that's what they wanted.
Yeah, so it could be different now, but that's what it was at the beginning of free agency. And like you said, I think that'd be perfect. He has shown that he's good, so you're not taking any risk. I guess the only risk you would be taking is if he got injured or for some reason he became really bad, but that is rare instances in my opinion. So I think I agree with you, Andrew. I think it'd be interesting, but I think it'd be a firepower we needed on that line.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't got hurt yet. I mean, Mac could get hurt. And like I tried to say just a second ago, is we only got Mac for one more year.
Yeah. So.
And yeah, we can use the first pick to take care of defense, but we have a lot of needs. So if that was something that this team did, I would be very happy with that decision.
I got no problem with a third rounder for a guy of that caliber. Like you said, Brennan, hey, we're going to spend a pick regardless, but you're getting a known commodity. But along with a known commodity comes a salary today versus a rookie contract. And so do we know what kind of number he's looking at?
No, but we know it's trending.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And so if you keep that number 25-30, I might do that for a 3-year deal. Not fully guaranteed, maybe, have some outs in there. But look at the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs' defensive line has really been what's been keeping them in games the last couple seasons and made them a contender. This is going to be an interesting division this season, and we have to get after the quarterback, period. And so I like that. I like that a lot.
He makes the most sense if there's something to just try to reach for. And for me, it's just like I keep going back to Mac. Like, he's gone after next year, more than likely.
He may retire. If we don't win the big show, he may retire.
Right. And so, where are we willing to pay big money? Like, yeah, we're going to go young in a lot of areas. That's the direction, and I'm totally down with that. But we got to pay some people. And I think that if we're already paying Mac, so paying someone on the defensive line is definitely a sure thing that we want to do. This guy makes a lot of sense. He's still got some youth to him. He's it. If we did something.
Yeah. I mean, look what the Rams did with Aaron Donald. Chris Jones has been a beast.
Exactly.
The Raiders just paid Max Crosby a friggin' Brinks truck full of money, which, I mean, the guy's probably got the highest revving motor I've ever seen of any football player in decades. But that's a ton of money. And then if you look at Cincy, personally, I think Cincy's toast. I think they just invested so much money in 3 positions on their roster that the rest of the roster is going to suffer. And so, yeah, maybe we go snatch that dude off of them because they just can't pay him. And we use our money a lot more appropriately on our roster with the depth building that we're doing. And, yeah, I like it. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that too is it's interesting because it's all up in the air with them right now. There's not too much talk, but there's talk that they will make a deal for him if the price is right based off like other teams' interest. So there's definitely it's not far-fetched. I think based off the Chargers it could be willing if they're willing to pay that much. But we have the cap and they're willing to get rid of him. So if they're getting rid of a stud on the line, sack leader. I keep saying this. It's hard to be the sack leader. Not a lot of people do it, and he did it. So it's impressive. So like, yeah. Just enough said with that, I think. But
Nice. And by the way, I think we're going to shift gears this pod, guys, because there's been so much to talk about just with our roster and free agency that let's punt on draft talk and filling in positions of need, because I really want to spend time on that in each position. And so maybe, we're literally like a month today away from the draft. Why don't we circle back in a week or two and do nothing but draft and positions of need relative to the holes we filled and the depth we filled. And then that way we don't feel rushed and short circuit that, because it's going to be hugely important. And who knows, maybe Trey Hendrickson becomes a Charger between now and then.
Yeah, I think it would be good too, based off the fact that if we do it in a week or two, we're going to have more to talk about. There's going to be more reports coming out. There's going to be who knows, new signings, like you were saying. So
yeah, maybe we have one or two signings. I just saw that who was it just signed? The Patriots just signed Diggs.
Yeah,
and they paid him a lot of money. I didn't think he was going to get that big a contract. 3 years, $39 million. Are you kidding me? Pretty good contract. Or no?
And after an ACL injury,
it's 3 years, $69 million. I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big contract for an older wide receiver. So that's a good segue into the wide receiver room. My goodness, we saw guys coming off the board. You want to talk about frustration? We saw guys coming off the board, and then DK goes to Pittsburgh, which I think was one of the stupidest moves he could have made, because he said he wanted to stay in the West Coast and he wanted to play in warm weather. And then he goes to Pittsburgh. And then I see something yesterday that Cam Hayward's saying he recruited him. And I'm like, you screwed him is what you did. If you recruited him, you just screwed him, because he doesn't even know who his quarterback's going to be. He took the bag, okay? He took the bag. Supposedly he was talking to the Chargers. But he comes off the board. Devontae goes to the Rams. Cooper Kupp goes back to Cooper Kupp
It's Seattle.
Adams goes to the Rams. Now Stefon Diggs is going to the Patriots. Chris Godwin stayed with the Bucks. I mean, all these guys, you're just shit. And then all of a sudden, we get Mike back. And I'm like, I'm feeling kind of good about this. Mike and Ladd. Now, we need Mike healthy. That was a down season last year for him and two organizations and the whole bit, but he says he's good. Mike is a totally different receiver than QJ and Ladd. In fact, if you were going to give me a choice between Keenan Allen re-signing and Mike Williams re-signing, boy, that would be a tough one. But from skill set, I would go Mike before Keenan. Because of what Mike does, this team needs. We need that big outside body that can get that 50-50 ball. And that's Mike. So, wide receiver, the floor is open. Go anywhere you want with it. But we missed out on those big names, and we heard all the guys on the social media crying and whining that the Chargers aren't doing shit, and they wanted to fire Ortiz and all of that. But we signed Mike.
Go ahead, Brennan.
Yeah, I think the Mike Williams signing was good. The only thing I got to say is that we brought an X factor back on the team. Only thing I have to say about him in his down year is going from two organizations and being a key role player from one team, then going to those teams and kind of being just if you're open, we're going to throw you the ball, isn't going to boost you up and like having one of your best seasons if you don't get the ball. He's 1 year off of his injuries, so hopefully that bug's gone. And we're a new identity, so I think he's going to not have to – he's not going to have to catch a hospital ball every single game, because we're going to rely on the run game more. He's going to be able to be more healthy based off of the receptions he's going to get, but he's still going to be, like I said, the X factor. If we need that big play to jump us down the field, he's going to make it. And I like that with Ladd being that little shifty, speedy guy who can also make some big plays himself. So I don't want to get too much into the draft because we're going to be talking about that, but I would like if we brought in one guy from the draft, I think we'd be pretty dang solid. So.
Yep.
Yeah, and we definitely will. When? Who knows? Because Mike fills the role of that X receiver, and he plays it a lot better than QJ. That is not QJ's game. And when you look at what was out there, there wasn't a whole lot left as far as a prototypical boundary receiver. Mike Williams plays that role quite well. We know who Mike is, what he can do. We just need to get some availability out of him, and that's going to be a great start. But when you look at this depth chart at the wide receiver room, it's pretty bad. So you're looking at our starters, Mike Williams, Quentin Johnson, Ladd McConkey, and the backups are Jalen Rager and Brendan Rice. Darius Davis, it's work. The job will be continued. But yeah, I just hope we get some. For me, it's just we need a good season. We need a healthy season out of Mike. I don't care too much whether he's a top 20, 15 receiver. I want him to be available, and the rest will kind of work itself out, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, there's some depth there, right? DD will get 20 receptions and specialty plays. I'd like to see what they're going to do with Brendan Rice. They basically redshirted him last year, so he's going to get an opportunity. I don't want to overlook Rager. They re-signed him for a reason. Maybe it's depth. Maybe they see something more. Ladd's your 100 reception guy, right? He's that guy. Mike, we need like 50 receptions out of Mike. We need those contested balls, that big play. And then let QJ do what QJ does, because he is not that guy. He had that one stellar one-handed catch down the left boundary last season. Besides that, that's not his game. So we've got these different pieces of what we would call our starters in QJ, Mike, and Ladd, and they all do things differently. So if we get that last piece in the draft, odds are we're not going to get that golden kid, and I don't think we want to go too much into the draft, but there's some quality receivers there. I would almost make a case, though, if you got that stud pass-catching tight end, you maybe don't necessarily need that other true number one in the wide receiver room.
Exactly. No, that's well said, Kirk. I think that's the idea, when you look at the type of offense that we're going to have, and we'll get into that a little later. But this is what we got, and the job's not done yet.
Yeah, and by the way, just to finish off wide receivers, there's a couple guys, one by the name of Amari Cooper, and as far as household names go, and another by the name of Keenan Allen, who are veteran wide receivers who are still available, as far as I know. Just saying, I highly doubt at this point the Chargers would sign Keenan before the draft, but depending on how the twists and turns of the draft go, I wouldn't be shocked if they signed Keenan. And quite frankly, if they signed Keenan and that was the end of it, but we got a stud pass catching tight end, I'd probably be fairly ecstatic, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. That was perfectly said. You can get like a stud passing or catching tight end. That'd be good. Personally, everybody loves Keenan, so I'll probably get some hate for this. But for me, the thing is I don't want a guy on our team that if he's the only option, sure. But he's the one saying that he wants to play for us again after trash talking us in that first interview he had with the Bears, saying he came off his best season and he's not going to take a pay cut, which shows he didn't really want to be on our team that much, because 3 other guys that same season did that. And he is getting older, but my whole thing is why bring a guy back who didn't even want to be on our team in the first place based off money? I know it's a money league now, but if he really, really wanted to be on our team, and with those circumstances, we went 5-11 or 5-12. Based off that, I know we had Easton Stick, but obviously you weren't that much of a game changer if we went 5-11. He was injured sometimes too, so I know it's probably far-fetched, but that's my opinion on Keenan. If we can get Amari Cooper, I'd rather take a guy like that who probably wants a new fresh start and would probably want to be on our team more than a guy who's just chasing the bag at this point. Who knows if he's going to actually be the same Keenan? So
I think Keenan found out that the grass wasn't greener on the other side. I'm glad he got paid. But, he went over there with Caleb Williams in that situation where there were weapons everywhere, and it was what it was. I mean, I don't think, their offensive line was pretty crappy, but I don't think Caleb Williams really played to the level that everyone kind of thought he should have. With that said, I love Keenan, the guy, his character. I love Keenan, but when you and I like sure, if he came back and just retired as a Charger, that sounds cool and that's great. But Keenan on the outside that's not really his best game. Not to say that he can't win there, but I'm not really interested in a Keenan taking anything away from Ladd when we've got basically you could argue Ladd is a wide receiver 1 in the slot. So, I'm okay with really not having him back.
Yeah, well, and that's why I think I kind of kicked this off, that if you're going to give me a choice between Keenan and Mike, I'm picking Mike because of skill set, even though Keenan is probably one of the best route runners in NFL history and a great possession receiver. And of course, Justin trusted him, especially on third down, like crazy. But Ladd's kind of that guy now. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, if you're looking at our current roster and wide receiver room and you go Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen, I'm probably going Amari Cooper.
Again, I agree.
Skill set.
Yeah.
Right? So, and there's some, Andrew, you're going to school us on the next one. But there's some pretty good wide receiver depth in this draft from what I am seeing from, let's not get too deep into it, but clearly at the very top of the draft down, maybe all the way into the third round?
There's lots of guys. There's lots of talent. That's why I made the comment earlier about Sammy Fehoko. I'm looking at this draft, and I've got 38 wide receivers on my board that I've looked at, and I'm going. There's a handful of these guys that can play. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. And Brandon, I know you're going to have some insight on this, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say because I haven't had a lot of buddies. I'm getting into I'm not one of these draft connoisseurs like a lot of these people have going on out there, but I'm getting into it, and this is my second year really getting into it. But I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say too.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. There's a lot of, I feel like this draft, compared to others, there's a lot of positions that are stacked. There's probably a good 5 or 6 positions on the field that have a lot of good guys that can be taken on any part of the round. So it's going to be interesting because we saw Joe Ortiz last year. He got 2 starting 5th round corners. And so it's he can make do with it. And I mean, I know this is kind of a far stretch too, but Kamani Vidal, he's going to be pretty good. We got a lot of guys at the end of the rounds. So it's going to be interesting. I think we're going to be able to get some pretty good guys, especially with 10 picks. If we don't trade any of those 10 picks, that is a lot to play with. So
yeah, I suspect Joe's going to package up some stuff, but that's what makes draft day interesting, right? We got one more position that we haven't talked about, and it's not like it's, this could have been the number one position we talked about, but the running back position, as far as I'm concerned, we signed a stud. I didn't think we were going to get this guy. I'm a little shocked we only did him on a 1 year. I don't know the rationale behind that because he has been so available and so steady. The guy, all he does is show up every Sunday and put up 1,000 yards every season. Why did we only sign him to a 1 year? But listening to his interview, he is stoked to be a Charger. He's really looking forward to coming into this organization and this scheme and bringing his talent to this scheme. I think this is a great signing. This guy, man, he just comes in and runs the rock. He's not going to take it 75 yards, but he's going to give you your 2, 3, 4, 6, 7s, 10s, 12s, and keep the chains moving, which is what Giro, that's what he's looking for. And then we just need that game-changing back. So I like that signing a lot. I mean, I like bringing over guys like Steelers and Raiders. I think they bring that same mindset that Harbaugh's trying to build.
We got Najee Harris on pennies on the dollar when you look at the running back position, just like we did with a lot of these other signings. Like, we really just played our contracts super smart. But I tuned in to Matt Money Smith and Jalil Adai, and the way that they broke it down was, and this is where I get my perspective on the JK situation, is his contract is really based off of incentives. And they were saying, like, you don't really sign a JK when you bring a guy in that the only way that he's going to make his money is being the bell cow and making the most out of the opportunity. Like, it kind of just shows that they're really going to be leaning in on Najee, and this draft class is full of some hopeful running backs. There's guys, you're going to be able to get running backs all the way to maybe the 6th round. We're talking Hassan Haskins 2.0 in this draft in the 6th, maybe the 6th round, things like that. We're talking Kamani Vidal would be lucky to be running back 2. He's not going to, I'm going to say this now, he's not going to be running back 2 by the time the season starts. That'll be my take. But that's how I look at this room. They're looking at the future, and if Najee rises to the occasion, even better, and we can restructure that as we go forward.
Yeah, I agree. Even though JK had a good season last year, he still missed 4 games, and we, quite frankly, could have used him in at least half of those games. Where Najee Harris, he is one of those tough running backs. He's not going to get his highest rush is 47 yards for a touchdown, but he's going to stiff arm and run over that whole defense and get those yards, and he's still not hurt. Shows up. He's been hurt countless times, and he still's in. He doesn't injure it more. He's just a productive and active guy that I think, especially since we're building this line and it's already better than it was last year, in my opinion, I think he's going to run dudes over. And like I said, JK was good, but he still missed games. I want a running back that is as productive and active as Najee Harris. So.
Yeah, and regarding the games JK missed, I remember talking about it here on the pod late last season. I don't know how much of that was JK and how much of that was an abundance of caution because we know we needed him for the playoffs. One thing Ortiz did last season, which I wasn't used to under Telesco, you guys remember, they were putting guys on IR like crazy. Yeah. And just, okay, you're out for 4 games, period, right? They did a ton of that. So I don't know if JK was a victim of that and he could have come back sooner. Maybe he could, maybe he couldn't. But I still think we can get the kid for the right price. I don't think we're going to pay him a whole hell of a lot based on last year's production. It's only 1 season with his injury production, but it's yet to be seen. And if there's that amount of depth in this draft, it reminds me of the Broncos. The Broncos back in Shanahan's day, man, look at Terrell Davis, okay? He was bringing in running backs in that running scheme, and it didn't matter who he put in the backfield. I mean, he had all these different backs for years, and they were putting up 1,000 yards every season. You know, so you put a back behind this new line with Becton and Alt, and let's hope Zion does what Zion, you know, he figures it out and really becomes dominant. New center. Yeah, who knows? Najee could have his best season ever behind this line. So it could be very interesting.
I think JK was on pace to have 1,000-yard season, and I think you're right, Kirk. I think he was a victim of just being cautious about things. But I think this just kind of shows this position is no nonsense, and you're seeing how much it means to Jim Harbaugh and this team that although JK was close to 1,000 yards and he did his thing, he made the most of his opportunities. I think they're really looking at this position as like, no, this is business. This is no nonsense. And and I think JK could just get picked up by someone to make a little bit of money. So that's just kind of how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, taking like money off the board. The only thing I can say with the I agree with you guys. The whole caution thing and trying to get him ready for playoffs. But I saw multiple reports. It was because they didn't want to rush him into it based off of his previous injuries already. So based off that, the only thing I can say to that is like how my brain's working with this is you don't have to worry about that with Najee. Who knows? You might need to next year, but the dude was injured a lot throughout his career and never missed games and still put up those numbers where you don't have to have a precautionary IR for him because
I don't. Sorry, I don't have the reports pulled up, but you're right. He did. Now that I'm thinking about it, they did find something wrong during that time period. Like I think it is both. Like they were being cautious, but I'm if my memory serves me right, like they did find something going on with his knee. I don't have. We could pull it up, but we don't need to do that.
Yeah. Well, he's still available right now.
So yeah, regardless,
I would be surprised if we sign him before the draft. At this point, it seems like the Bolts are content to just kind of let him test the market, whether that's an agreement between both parties or it's just it is what it is. But we're really happy to have Najee on the team. I think he's going to behind this line and what Harbaugh and Giro want to do. I think he's a really good fit. Like I said, I'm just a little surprised we only went 1 year on the deal because it's not like this guy has an injury history. But Ortiz, you do you, Joe.
I saw a funny. Sorry to rip, but I saw a funny comment, and they were calling us, and I agree with it. There's only been 2 multi-year deals we've signed already, but they're calling us the 1-year merchants because literally every single contract has been a 1 year except. Regardless of 2. And I'm not talking about like even re-signings. Elijah Molden was the only guy who got a multi-year deal. All the new D tackles, that new cornerback, the linebacker, they're all 1-year deals. So the only thing that I have to say to that is we did that last year, and now we signed a bunch of new guys. But you're going to be in the same boat next year, having to re-sign some of those guys because all of them are on 1 years, and hopefully we don't have a big free agency of already signed guys, because then at that point you're screwed. You're back to square one how you were because all these 1-year deals. But who knows? I'm not a GM, so I don't know. So.
Slowly but surely we're building, right? But I just think we don't need to like unpack this again. But I do think that's why the Trey Hendrickson situation would make sense if that's how it played out, because that clearly we're being smart with our money, and there's a long season ahead of us. He's one of those guys. Like he's one of those difference makers. And if this is how we're playing with our money, don't be surprised if at least something does come up, guys. And it's more than just being prepared for depth. Like we're killing that, and we're going to continue to be responsible with that. But don't be surprised. I just think that there's definitely something up their sleeves.
There's something big.
Yep.
Who knows? Last podcast, me and Kirk were saying the same thing, and not even 10 minutes after we got off the podcast, we signed Becton. So
literally, it was like
it was clockwork. And we were saying, imagine if we signed someone. So who knows? It like Andrew said, don't be surprised if we make a little splash based off of the amount of money we have and the contract situation. But, yeah.
Yeah, and I was speculating last pod too that maybe, Joe being a new GM, he's maybe. And I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but he may be dipping his toe cautiously and not committing money for the long term as he's kind of feeling out who's fitting and who's not fitting and all of that. So maybe these first couple seasons, he's like, I'm a little more comfortable spending money for 1 year, not 3 or 4 or 5, and then being stuck, especially because all these contracts now are getting so much guaranteed money, which you have a guy go down, guaranteed money, you're screwed. And right now, they're sitting in a catbird seat. They walk into this organization, what were we, 30, 40 million in the hole? And they walk into this preseason and we're 90 million plus to spend. And so I think Joe probably likes that scenario a hell of a lot better than the scenario he walked into, which is, I'm negative 30 million before I even get started. So
no doubt. Yeah.
We're still sitting pretty too. We got like 33 million plus, and I think once Slater gets restructured, that actually gives us more money. So we're being very responsible, and we're in a really good position.
yeah, and I'm glad you touched on that because that was one of the things we need to touch on. We touched on it last time, but it's not a done deal yet, and we know it needs to be a done deal. This offseason, Slater needs to be re-signed, renewed, restructured. And so that's not done yet, but I would assume they're working on that like daily at this point. We need to get him locked down. So, by the way, remember I told you the guy who mentioned that the Chargers, every time they show up at the game, the first guys off the bus should be the lineman? That was Hitman. That was on money.
Jalil Adai said that?
Yeah,
Okay,
it was Jaleel. And I'm like, typical Jaleel, right? I mean, he was the hitman. I mean, talk about getting all kinds of personal fouls. He was the master of personal fouls. But I'm like, that's a genius idea, dude. I mean, you let the big boys come off that bus first and just set the tone. So I like that. I hope they do that. All right, let's wrap up with one last bit here. Let me make sure this is wrapping it up because we've signed a bunch of guys we haven't talked about yet. And so let's just kind of go down the list here. Love to get your thoughts. Some are role players. Some could be starters. Dante Jackson was one of the first early signings from another team, Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback. What are your thoughts on getting Dante in here?
Good. He was a stud on the Panthers last year. He was really good. I know I said the whole thing about Christian Fulton being burnt toast on man. Same thing with Deontay Jackson, but when he's in zone, he had 6 picks last year. He was good in coverage when it came to that, but he was a little bit inconsistent. So we'll see. Getting into a new regime, who knows? He might be able to step it up, but he definitely has some stunness in him for sure. So.
Yeah, well said, Brandon. And like him or not, guys, we got to like him because we let a couple guys walk. And the way that it stands right now is we're kind of looking at Dante Jackson as one of the outside starters, Cam Hart on the other, and then we pit Tarheeb in the nickel. And that's kind of how it's looking until the draft unfolds, and we'll see if that mixes things up a little bit. But that's going to be our guy.
If his strong suit is zone, Mentor likes to play a lot of zone, so that would work out good. We don't go man too often. And if we do, sometimes he splits it where one side's man and the other side's zone. It's not too often. He's playing, full zone. So, what about Benjamin St. Just? Is he more of a role player, special teams guy? What's his?
I think he's just depth. I think he's just a body. I think he's got physical traits with his body. We hope that we got the coaching staff that seems to get the best out of players who aren't exactly known for being that guy. We kind of hope that is something he was. So here's the thing: he was a starter for Washington, but he just let his season crumble, and he lost his job to my Davis, a guy that we let go. What's his name?
Oh, Michael Davis.
Yeah, he lost his job to Michael Davis. So we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We got him for a reason, and we got some good coaches. Let's hope we can get the best out of him, and he is a depth piece that can help us out in a pinch.
Well, like I said, cornerbacks are hard to come by. Good cornerbacks are very hard to come by. So if you got a guy you need in a pitch, is he better than Eli Apple?
No.
Okay. Okay. Because I don't know a lot about him.
I think there's an argument to be made there, but
because we haven't re-signed Apple, right? He's free agent. And then we touched on this guy, Delshon Phillips. He's more of a special teams guy. Could come in and pinch, play some linebacker, right? Depth signing.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, and then Deshaun Hand. This guy is defensive tackle. Looks to me like he's just gonna be maybe a rotational guy. Maybe fill that role a little bit. Is he a tweener? Is he D-tackle, tweener, edge?
He's a tweener.
Okay.
He's a tweener, and out of all of these guys, when you look at like Naquan Jones and Phillips, it's funny because we got Delshawn and Deshaun. Regardless, he's made some good plays. I think he's probably the better player of those guys as far as our replacements go. So we're really looking at him to compete with Justin Aboigbe, but make no mistake about it. We're going to touch on this on the next pod, but we're going to go hard on that defensive line, and this is the best defensive line class that we can remember, and that's not just my opinion. That's the people who live and die by the draft, and I'm seeing it too, just with my own eyes. We're in a very good place to go get young guys. But anyways, going back to the position, this is a guy that's going to compete and rotate with Justin Aboigbe. Hopefully we get him on the field because he had lingering issues last season. Yeah. But he's the better one of the pickups.
Gotcha. And then Naquan. This is a big boy. He's a big boy. He's 6'3", 313. He's a space eater. I see him maybe kind of rotating with Tier Tart, kind of filling that right up the middle, nose tackle-y, zero gap, one gap kind of guy.
Yeah, he actually had a really good, just straight down the middle sack on Herbert last year.
I remember
in that Cards game, and that was a good play.
Dude,
so
he can dominated us last season. They
he can make some
shit out of us.
I pulled up his game log, but before we got on, guys, I went and pulled up these guys' game log, and I thought Naquan Jones was going to be the dude. He had no production. Like, yeah, he had that nice sack on Herbie, but it was didn't even seem like the guy played. He didn't have crap for numbers. So I was a little surprised by that. But yeah, you nailed it. He's just going to be rotating, and hopefully, as we keep talking about, we get the most out of these guys. And we did it last year, and hopefully it's something we continue to do.
Yep. Well, you got to have depth. Like I said, depth's what wins championships, and you got to have it throughout your roster. So it looks like Joe's been working on that. I mentioned earlier, there's a few guys out there that may or may not be fits for us. At this stage of the game, they're probably going to wait till after the draft. A lot of these, what would you call them, lower tier free agents, they're just going to find their place between the draft and training camp. They'll catch on with the team, but you got Keenan. Like I said, Zadarius Smith interests me. I think he could be an interesting signing, but again, if we've got a lot of depth and we've got Trey Hendrickson, that's a possibility who could be dominant. Again, maybe that guy doesn't catch on. I don't think he caught on. No, he was traded last season, wasn't he? After what's his name went down in Detroit, Baltimore, I think.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, he went over there to the Lions.
Yeah, and I don't remember him making a ton of waves or anything, but he held down the fort. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of free agency evolves here going into the draft and coming back out of it. But any last thoughts on free agency so far for the Bulls, gentlemen?
I think we've covered a lot of it for me.
We've covered it soup to nuts, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we got it, and I think that we all understand that this ship is cruising, and we're just going to be picking up dudes as we keep going. I don't think that the show's ever going to stop with the way that we're managing our money. And then we saw what they did last year. I think it's just going to be how we do things, and that's exciting. So just week after week, we'll see how it unfolds.
And going along with, how a lot of fans think, and I tend to run different, but right now, yeah, I would love to see maybe a couple of those crown jewels kind of added to the roster at a couple spots. Maybe that is in the draft, and maybe Joe makes a move and goes and gets some stud that we don't think he might go get, or we sign a Trey Hendrickson or something like that. But it'd be nice to get a couple jewels on the roster that fill out the top of that roster. So we'll continue to monitor things. We will be back in probably about 2 weeks. I think we'll split it in the middle. We're a month out from the draft. Split it in the middle here. We'll be back in 2 weeks. It'll give me an opportunity to do a little bit of homework and catch up with these two guys as far as some of the draft analysis that's out there, because I haven't done a whole heck of a lot. And we'll circle back. But that's it for this episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you guys have found it helpful and informative. And by all means, we'd love to get comments from you. So feel free, go down below, give us some comments. Maybe you've got an idea where the Chargers could make a move. Maybe you disagree with a couple of our takes on some of the moves the Chargers have already made. But love having you guys here with us. Brennan, Andrew, love having you guys back. Man, it's been a while since the season ended, I think, since the three of us has gotten together on a pod. So love having you guys with me, and we'll be doing it again real soon, man. So with that, let's wrap up this episode, and you know the drill. Who's got it better than us, brothers?
Nobody.
Nobody. By the way, I understand Harb's got his hip done and his heart done, and he's back ready to rock and roll, man. That guy is a beast. So really looking forward to this season. So all right, guys, be good. Bolt up. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks with a in-depth draft analysis. Hi, I'm Kirk Brewer, the creator and host of ChargersCast. I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of ChargersCast. We really appreciate you engaging with the podcast. When I created ChargersCast, it was intended to be a podcast about everything Los Angeles Chargers from a fan perspective. It's by fans and for fans. So it's for you, and we really appreciate you being here. If you haven't done so already, please go down below, leave a comment, give us some feedback. We really love to hear from you. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and click the little bell so that you get notifications when new content drops. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to ChargersCast. And who's got it better than us? Nobody.